Okay, if you haven't heard, Andy, aka Metafictional Meathead, has a brain tumor. Well, actually, technically, he had a brain tumor. Just came out about 3 hours ago. This episode is going to be about books. Let me explain that in just a minute. But if you're out of the loop with what's going on, about 2 months ago, Andy messaged a group chat we have with some friends and just kind of mentioned that he wasn't feeling well. He was having some dizziness, blurred vision, a little bit of nausea, and I'll actually throw the screenshot on screen for those of you who are watching this episode. But I said, hey, that could be something like you need glasses, although I didn't feel super confident about that because of the nausea. And I said, or that could be a brain tumor. And it could be 50 things in between of various degrees of seriousness. And I'm not a doctor. I don't work in medicine, but I have a background in health and fitness, surprisingly to a lot of people, given my current state. That's a whole nother long story. But, I know enough. And I've been through the medical ringer myself. I've had multiple surgeries for various reasons and really learned that I had to advocate for myself, really had to teach myself how to read medical literature. And I just had a bad feeling because Andy's a young guy. He's 29. He's in great shape. He does jujitsu a few times a week. He does strength training. He does aerobic work. He doesn't really drink much. He doesn't do any drugs. And so I just had a bad feeling with the symptoms he was having. And, he didn't have care set up here in New Hampshire. He's from Massachusetts originally. When you're a young person that's healthy, you don't need to go to the doctor very often. So he had never set up a new primary care. And I guess he had a hard time getting an appointment for primary care up here initially because where he used to go down in Massachusetts, that person's not in business anymore. And the new office wanted his medical records, blah, 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 blah. So anyway, we've been podcasting, and he seemed mostly fine. And he had mentioned that he hadn't been doing jujitsu because of these symptoms. And I thought, okay, that's a little weird that it's, continuing on. But he seemed mostly okay. And eventually, not this past Friday, not the past Friday from when you're watching or listening to this, or when I posted this rather, but the Friday before, he finally got into the PCP and they had prescribed antibiotics for a sinus infection. And I didn't know that right away. But when he told me that, I was like, that doesn't seem right to me at all, because I didn't notice him being congested. I mean, you guys, if you watch the show, you can go back and watch the last few episodes. He sounds pretty normal. And I guess 3 days into the course of treatment, he woke up in the middle of the night. The nausea was worse than ever, shooting pains in his head. He vomited. And so on Thursday of last week, from when I'm recording this, he went to the ER and I said, look, like, even if you have to lie about the extent of your head pain, like, just make sure they know you're having severe head pain because they will do a CT scan on your head and you really shouldn't leave until you get that done. And he messaged us back and he said, I got the scan. I'm waiting for the results. And then a little while later, he messaged us and said, okay, there's a spot on my brain. And I thought, ooh, that's not good. My first thought was actually MS, because that can cause lesions on the brain and spine. It's more common in women, but obviously men can get it. And people in their 30s and 40s are usually the one where they get diagnosed. You don't get a diagnosis for that super young or super old typically, from what I understand. Again, I'm not a doctor. And then probably another 45 minutes later, he messaged us and said, I have a brain tumor. And I thought he was messing with us at first. That was last Thursday. It's now Tuesday, May 20th. He just had the surgery. Everything went well. If you're following along with the story, you've probably already received some more updates about his status before this episode goes live. But obviously, I'm not sure when the podcast is going to continue as normal. Fortunately, we had a episode scheduled without him already. That was to interview K.E. Semmel, who's an author and translator. He translated Rock, Paper, Scissors, which we read for our book club, and Andy wasn't going to be part of that interview because he didn't really love the book, and I don't think he even finished it. So I was going to do that with myself and Mike, who's a book club member, helps us run our Discord community. And Mike absolutely loved the book, went out and bought K.E. Semmel's original work and read that and loved it. So we haven't, by the time you're hearing this episode, that's probably been recorded. But at the time I'm recording this, we have not done that interview yet. So in the spirit of trying to keep the podcast going in some shape, way, or form, in the meantime, I was taking a look at this giant pile of books on my other desk and thinking, well, maybe I should just do an episode going over this giant book haul so we can keep talking about books. Normally I could have just done this as like a YouTube video, but I figured I'll call it a podcast so those who follow the podcast can at least get an update on Andy. I'll put a link down below too where you can help support him. We set up a GoFundMe. At the time of recording this video, it's raised $17,000, which is great, but he does have insurance, but there's going to be co-pays, there's going to be co-insurance, there's going to be deductibles. He's probably going to be out of work for probably at least a month and a half, maybe more. It really just depends on how his recovery goes. It's, I think, too early to know. At least at this time of recording this, I have not been told if the tumor was benign or malignant, if he has any deficits after the procedure that he's going to need physical therapy for. So he has a long road ahead. You know, he might be able to qualify for a temporary disability, but that only pays, I think, maybe 50 or 60% of your normal income. So any little bit can help. And actually now through the end of June, anyone that joins the book club, I'm going to donate $5 to Andy, and then Mike from the book club is also going to match that. So we'll be donating $10 total for every new member that joins now through the end of June. So if you were on the fence about joining the book club, now's the perfect time because your membership is going to go right to him. So let's talk about some books. I've only read 2 of these in this whole pile because these are all pretty much recent acquisitions. So when you make book content, a few things happen. Number one, I mean, you're probably already somebody that reads, right? And so you might have a habit of buying books fairly regularly, and you probably continue with that habit when you start making books. So some of these I purchased. Lots of people send you books unsolicited, way too many that I can even keep up with. In fact, I pretty much had to put a notice on my website being like, look, if it's not in these particular genres, don't bother sending it. And I might just have to take my address down off the site in general because I still get just like self-published romance, self-published fantasy, and there's nothing wrong with those books. I just don't read them. I don't read those genres anyway, and I'm probably not going to dip my toes in with something that's like a new author getting started. I hate to say it, but that's the case. And then there's books that very big publishers like the Big Five and their imprints, they send me stuff. Sometimes I read those, sometimes I give them away. And then there's stuff that I request from publishers and they give it to me because they know they're going to get a lot of marketing out of it just from me showing it on my channel. So let's dig in. Let's dig into the books. These first 3 are all from Chicago Review Press, and these are all from the Strugatsky brothers, Arkady, and Boris. So I think this is probably maybe their most famous work, which is Roadside Picnic. I'm not really much of a sci-fi reader. I've read some of the big ones, Neuromancer, Dune. I just read Lathe of Heaven by Ursula K. Le Guin. But I guess, these guys are considered the best sci-fi writers to ever come out of Russia and seriously influential. I mean, Ursula K. Le Guin wrote the foreword for this particular book. So I'll probably start with this from them because it's quite short and it just sounds rad. If you're not familiar with it, it says, Red Schuhart is a stalker, one of those young rebels who are compelled in spite of extreme danger to venture illegally into the zone to collect the mysterious artifacts that the alien visitors left scattered around. So that's kind of cool. It's got a very creepy cover on it as well. And also from them, Hard to Be a God. And The Inhabited Island. So all three of these sound cool. If you have any thoughts on any of them, please share them. But they feel very, very like classic sci-fi to me, just the descriptions. Lots of aliens and space and all that kind of stuff, which, that's what sci-fi is, obviously. But I don't know, like Lathe of Heaven isn't necessarily like about space, and even Neuromancer is like kind of based on Earth, and it's more dystopian than anything else. So that is from Chicago Review Press. This next pile we'll tackle here. These are some recent books sent to me completely unsolicited from big name publishers. So this is Inner Workings, Literary Essays from 2000 to 2005 by J.M. Coetzee, who is a South African Nobel Prize winner. And on the cover here it says Samuel Beckett, Saul Bellow, Walter Benjamin, Paul Celan, Hugo Claus, William Faulkner, Gabriel Garcia Marquez, Nadine Gordimer, Gunter Grass, Graham Greene, Sander Murray, Arthur Miller, Robert Musil, V.S. Naipaul, Joseph Roth, Philip Roth, Bruno Schultz, W.G. Sebald, Italo Svevo, Robert Walser, and Walt Whitman. I guess that's all the authors that J.M. Coetzee wrote essays about in this book. So I've actually never read any Coetzee. I have a copy of Waiting for the Barbarians and Disgrace, and I've heard great things about him, and I definitely want to get to him soon. But this is cool. I love this kind of thing. I think it's good for kind of expanding your horizons a bit. This is To Live by Yu Hua, who is a Chinese author. I guess this is also quite critically acclaimed. I believe this came out in the early 2000s, and I really know nothing about it otherwise. Oh, excuse me. The original copyright's 93, and then the translation by Michael Berry is 2003. I don't know why Vintage sent this to me. It came in a box with a bunch of other stuff, so with the J.M. Coetzee book, so that's cool. This is actually from a self-published author, but it's about Vietnam. This is Hearts, Minds, and Coffee by Kent Hinckley. Anti-war soldiers wage peace with a Viet Cong village, and he had seen that I'm kind of, slowly but surely making my way through books about Vietnam, and thought I would like this one. And so I, with a rare exception, I said, yeah, send it over to me, which I typically don't do with self-published authors. And I'm currently reading Matterhorn by Karl Marlantis, and so I'm glad to add another to my collection here. This is Atavists, Stories by Lydia Millett, or Millier, I don't know. This was a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize, I guess. New release. Atavist, I believe that means kind of like a Luddite, someone who is anti-technology, anti-change. This is a very bizarre book, Fatal Abstraction, Why the Managerial Class Loses Control of Software by Daryl Campbell. Cool-looking book. I love the color. Very similar to Grace Blakely's Vulture Capitalism, which I read last year. This seems like so specific, like why the managerial class loses control of software. Like that's not a sentence I ever considered, or a question I ever considered, so whatever. The Unwanted by Boris Fishman. I probably will not read this. Just doesn't sound like something I would be into. So those are my unsolicited books from publishers. Next, let's cover Restless Books. They are an indie publisher, I think in either Mass or New York. I think they have a storefront in Mass, but the books say that the publishing company is in New York, so I don't really know. But they seem to specialize in works in translation. They had quite a few books from women authors on their site. So I requested a few, and then they sent me, with the requests, a bunch of stuff that I didn't request, which is fine. And I don't remember if I requested this one or not. Oh, I did, actually. This is Sexographies by Gabrielle Wiener. She's a Peruvian journalist. I believe she lives in Spain now. And the reason why I requested this one, it's a collection of essays. A lot of them are about sex, but not all of them. The essay that caught my eye was she goes and interviews somebody in a Peruvian prison. And with what's going on with the El Salvador prison right now, I was curious about other kind of Central and South American prisons. So I picked it up for that reason. I actually didn't love that essay. I didn't think it was that good, but all the other ones are pretty good. The first essay is extremely strong. The last essay is extremely strong. And then there's a couple in there that are also good, and then one or two that I'm like, could have done without those. But overall, I really liked it. This is Tenderloin by Joy Sorman, and translated from French by Laura Vernau. I'll show you the cover of that one. And this is Can Killing Be an Act of Love? Hypnotic, gruesome, and exultant Joy Sorman's macabre ballet whirls from industrial slaughterhouses to the boutique butcher shops of Paris. I did not request this, but I'm sure I'll check it out at some point. This is one that I did request. Council Culture by Kim Hye-jin. Sorry, it's a Korean name. Love Asian literature, read a decent amount of Korean literature, and the synopsis of this one just sounded cool to me. It's about a woman who's a therapist, and she regularly appears on a segment on a daytime talk TV show. And there's one episode where it's scripted for her to say something kind of negative about a public figure, and then that public figure takes their own life, and then it's kind of about the fallout of that. So I just thought it was kind of a unique synopsis and story, and this author is fairly acclaimed. They won the Yuzhong Literary Award, so that's cool. This is The Trial of Anna Thalberg by Eduardo San Garcia, written in Spanish. I'm not exactly sure where the author is from. It doesn't say here on the back, but this is a historical fiction about a woman who is charged with witchcraft, and really cool looking cover. I love kind of like hot pink, especially if it's contrasted with a darker color like the copper and brown on this. So that's cool. This is another historical fiction, one that I did not request. They just sent along, The Third Temple by Yishay Sarid. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that. I believe this is a Jewish author. It was originally written in Hebrew. In a near-future Jerusalem, harrowing omens plagued the city, a desecrated altar, an unbearable stench, a rampant famine, and I think like a visit from God. Oh, so maybe this is futuristic, not historical fiction. That's what you get when I'm talking about books that I haven't read yet. A couple more from them, a few more. The End by Fernanda Torres, who is a Brazilian actress and writer. So this is kind of like, I believe, a fictionalized retelling of her life during the Bossa Nova era in Brazil. Whatever that is. I'm not really up on my Brazilian history and pop culture. So if somebody knows anything about that, let me know. This is one I did request, Mud Sweeter Than Honey by Margot Raymer, who is a Polish author, I believe. And this is Voices from a Communist Albania. So it's kind of a collection of interviews about people who lived through the prominent Albanian communist era. And then Between This World and the Next by Praveen Herat. And this is about a British war journalist who goes to Cambodia for work and I believe gets stuck there. This is fiction. So let's go over a few more requests that I specifically made to publishers. These are from 3 different publishers. Golden Age by Wang Xiaobo. I already finished reading this, and I would say good, but not great as far as my liking of it. This guy only wrote a few books, and his writing career was super short because he didn't start getting published until, I want to say, his 30s, or maybe even 40s, and like then he died in his 40s, or at very, very best, like early 50s. But this is extremely satirical. It's basically making fun of the prudishness of communist China, Mao's China, and the Cultural Revolution, and just the absurdity of it. So it's basically like a retelling of this guy's life, and he's just talking about all of his relationships and his jobs, and it's quite funny. I read China Dream by Ma Jian last year, and now having read Golden Age, I can really see the influence of this on Ma Jian's book. So it kind of just wore on me a little bit. Like, the humor was good throughout, but you kind of like, all right, this probably could have been maybe 50 to 75 pages shorter. And I think there's a lot of like cultural context that was just over my head, because as much as I do know about China, I really don't know that much about China. I mean, I know much more than the average person, but I am not an expert by any means. So I'm probably right smack dab in the middle of the Dunning-Kruger bell curve between Dunning-Kruger and imposter syndrome, where I'm fairly accurately rating my knowledge of China, and which is to say it's okay. The Man Who Spoke Snakish by Andrus Kivarok. He's an Estonian author, and I've only read one other book from Estonia, which is The Brother by Rain Road, and that's quite short. That's Rain Road's take on a spaghetti western, effectively. This book is a historical fiction, takes place in medieval times. It's about a boy who's kind of tasked with maintaining these cultural norms and traditions in the face of modernity as things are changing. And this is supposedly the best-selling fiction from Estonia. I don't know if Estonia is big on fiction, but it's not a very big country. But yeah, it's very critically acclaimed. All right, this next one is Trist by Dasha Drndic. She's a Croatian author. I believe this is kind of like a post-World War II fictionalized memoir. It's about a young girl who was fathered by an SS officer, and then I think she was like kind of like kidnapped by the German military, or the German government rather. So I've heard it's excellent. Okay, let's talk about NYRBs. These are some that they sent me. I think there's one or two in here that I bought on a sale, and then a couple that I requested. So this is a new release that they sent me. This is Meow by Benito Perez Galdos. Yes, meow, as in like a cat. But on the back here, it's a quote from Vargas Llosa, that says, Benito Perez Galdos is the best Spanish writer of the 19th century. So that's promising. Not exactly sure when that comes out. Diary of a Man in Despair by Friedrich Reck. This is a nonfiction, actually, about a guy that lived through World War II and the Holocaust. Season of Migration to the North by Tayeb Salih, who is a Sudanese author. Lost Words from Montmartre by, hope we get this right, Chu Maojin. And she's a Taiwanese author. This was originally written in Chinese. The Radiance King by Kamara Lay, another African author. This is from Guinea, and this is considered like one of the most important novels from the colonial era of Africa. Couple of books from Gass. William H. On Being Blue, a philosophical inquiry, so one of his essay collections, and his short story collection, In the Heart of the Country. So thus far, I've only read Omen Setter's Luck and The Tunnel. Really enjoyed both, and looking forward to reading all of Gass's work eventually. And then On the Yard by Malcolm Braley. This was published in 1967, and it's about San Quentin. And so people have told me if you like Hard Rain Falling, you'll probably like this as well. All right, gang, we're getting there. So these next three I picked up at the old Number 6 Depot. I don't even remember why I went there. It's a bookstore somewhat local to me, maybe about 45 minutes away. It's insane. If I can find some footage, I'll drop it into this podcast. But it's a used bookstore with like 150,000 books in it. It's incredible. Their nonfiction section in particular is really amazing. But Andy and I went there just a few weeks ago, and I picked up The Old Gringo by Carlos Fuentes. I've actually never read any Carlos Fuentes. I have like 6 of his books now. This is the one I wanted to start with, and I finally just came across a copy. And this is like a super cringy, old school copy that looks like it's got it's got the movie cover, the movie edition on it, which is lame, especially because this movie looks old. But whatever. It's about the writing inside, right? And I love a nice looking book, but ultimately, whatever. This is Ceremony by Leslie Marmon Silko, who is an Indigenous author, Indigenous American author. And I have one other book from her that I've yet to read, but I've heard this one is kind of like the one to read from her specifically. So when I saw this, I decided to grab it. And then Whirlwind by James Clavell. I've had a real hard time finding nice copies of his Asian Saga series books. And so I grabbed this one when I saw it. It's clean. I come across used copies of them all the time, but they're always just gross. Mold or book bugs or just, falling apart. But this one's super clean, and these are getting expensive, harder to find. So I'm going to start making my way through collecting all of them. I've only read Shogun, and I don't even have a copy of it anymore. I gave it to a friend, and I never got it back, which is fine. It was a very cheap trade paperback edition. But I've heard excellent things about all the rest of these books, so I will eventually get to them. All right, real short pile here, technically. 2 books from Open Letter. Technically, they just sent these to me, but I'm always happy to get Open Letter books. This is Attila by Alyosha Cole and Attila by Javier Serena. And so this is the last book that the Spanish author and translator Alyosha Cole ever wrote, and then he took his own life. And this is recently published and translated by Katie Whittemore and published by Open Letter. And in tandem, they published this one as well, which is also translated by Katie, and a fictionalized retelling of, or imagining, I should say, of Alyosha Cole's last year of life. I've yet to read those. Andy has read both of them. He's commented on them a little bit in the last couple episodes if you want to check out his thoughts on that. All right, so this next pile is all books that I bought from Amazon, which I don't recommend you do. And even though I do put links in the podcast show notes, the reason why I do that is because I know that people are going to shop at Amazon no matter what. Like, you're not hearing about the existence of Amazon from me. And I figure if you're going to buy from there, I might as well put the link in the description. It is an affiliate link, so I am going to get, 50 cents probably if you buy a book through there. I also include bookshop.org links, which are also affiliate links. And that's a much more ethical place to make a purchase, in my opinion. However, sometimes the books are quite a bit more expensive on there, and I understand if you're on a tight budget. But also, a lot of times, unfortunately, bookshop.org just does not have the book in stock. Either it's just simply not listed on their website, or it's on back order, just because they don't have the inventory power or logistical power that something like Amazon has. But I'm trying to set something up with Thrift Books. I like Thrift Books as a company. I use them, and I had a call with them the other day and talked about maybe working together on some stuff. So we shall see. But anyway, Snow Country by Yasunari Kawabata, the famous Japanese author. Affections by Rodrigo Hasbun. Probably didn't say that right. Who is a Spanish author, but where is he from? But the synopsis of this is inspired by real events. Affections is the story of the eccentric, fascinating Erd clan, headed by the egocentric and extraordinary Hans, once the cameraman for the Nazi propagandist Leni Riefenstahl. Shortly after the end of World War II, Hans and his family flee to Bolivia. Well, there you go. This is probably a Bolivian author. I don't remember where I heard about this book. Oh, and I didn't even explain why I ordered from Amazon. I canceled my Amazon Prime, and you should too. And I saw that it was coming to the end of getting the Amazon Prime benefits, the free shipping and whatnot. And I had, I don't know, like $150 credit or gift card from something I had purchased a while ago and sent it back for whatever reason. I think it was a pair of shoes that didn't fit. And I just had this credit sitting on my account. I was like, well, I should use that before my Prime expires so I don't have to pay for shipping, and I might as well buy some books. I also got Kenzaburo Oe. I hope I'm saying that right. The Silent Cry, another really kind of famous, influential Japanese author. He's won the Nobel Prize for Literature. And he's got a few really kind of acclaimed books, but this one sounded the most interesting to me. If you've read anything from Kenzaburo, let me know. The Tale of Genji by Murasaki Shikibu, who is a woman. A lot of people don't know that. This is a monstrous book. This book is 1,168 pages before you get to the summary of poetic allusions identified in the notes. Deckled edges, for those who are on Team Deckled Edges. This is possibly like the heaviest book I own. It's just so thick and dense. And this is the translation by Royal Tyler. So this is actually a quite old translation, relatively speaking. I think it was done in the 1800s maybe. There's quite a few translations of this work. I did a little bit of research, and I felt like this was the right one for me. But if you have any experience with this, let me know. I'm a little intimidated by this because Kate Sherrod in our book club, who's very well read and has read a lot of Asian literature and actually speaks a little bit of Mandarin, said that this book has defeated her multiple times. And so when a more accomplished reader than myself says that, I take pause. So I don't know. Maybe I'll do this as like, we've had some requests to do like additional book club reads over longer periods of time to kind of run concurrently with our normal like monthly book club read. So maybe we'll plan for something like that. I don't know. And then Rising Up and Rising Down, Some Thoughts on Violence, Freedom, and Urgent Means by William T. Vollmann. This is a work of nonfiction, kind of like a philosophical inquiry into violence, freedom, and urgent means. Yeah. I still have yet to read any Vollmann. His books are so expensive for some reason. Even like the really short ones like Horse for Gloria, which I wanted to start with. I like to start with an author's short work just to get a feel for their writing, to make sure, you don't want to open up a 1,200-page book the first time you're reading an author if you can avoid it, because, you might get 300 pages in and go, I really don't like this. But yeah, his books are just so expensive. So I haven't been able to find a relatively cheap copy of Horse for Gloria. And this was cheaper than Horse for Gloria was. So, whatever. I bought it. I have a problem. Okay. This last stack is all books that were sent to me or given to me by friends. So, Macho Camacho Beat by Luis Rafael Sanchez. Obviously, an old book. This was published in 1980. And our friend Kevin, a.k.a. the HV Book Nerd, sent this to Andy, who passed it along to me. And I don't know if is Chief Camacho Macho from Idiocracy inspired by this title. I don't know. Let me know. Another Carlos Fuentes, bringing my Carlos Fuentes book count to like 7. Christopher Unborn. I have no idea about this book. But again, from Kevin to Andy to me. Also, from Andy, I don't know if maybe from Kevin to start, but Andy did pass this along. North Sun, or The Voyage of the Whale Ship Esther. This is from Deep Vellum, which is a cool indie publisher. Bookstore in Texas. This is about setting out from New Bedford, Massachusetts in 1878. The crew of the Esther is confident the sea will be theirs. In addition to cruising the Pacific for whale, they intend to hunt the teeming northern grounds before the ice closes. But as they sail to their final destination in the Chukchi Sea, where their Captain Arnold Lovejoy has an urgent directive of his own, their encounters with the natural world become more brutal, harrowing, ghostly, and strange. So that's cool. Sticking with the maritime theme, Ultramarine by Marriott Navarro. This is from also Deep Vellum, another recent publication about the ocean, translated from the French by Yves Hill Agnes. And Buddy and Mike and maybe one other person in our book club have read this and enjoyed it. It's quite short. Spiritless, but actually not, by Kyle Mitchell. This was another pass along from Kevin, I believe. Don't know anything about that. Got an interesting cover of a naked woman and man, mostly naked, walking a leopard on a leash, some type of exotic cat. These next three are from Michael DeAngelis, who's in our book club. And this is Pareja de Claris by Antonio Tabucci. This is a New Directions Publishing work. And is this guy Portuguese? What is he? It doesn't say. It doesn't say what language this is in. New Directions, come on. But this says, Dr. Pajeda is an aging, overweight, mostly lonely journalist living the sunny life of an... Jeez, I need glasses. Something fascism. Yeah, sounds like right up my alley. He also sent me The Mighty Angel by Jerzy Pilch. That must be a Polish author. Yes, it is. And this is from our friends over at Open Letter. I've actually never seen this before. The Mighty Angel concerns the alcoholic misadventures of a writer named Jerzy. 18 times he's woken up in rehab. 18 times he's been released. And 18 times he's stopped off at the liquor store on the way home. I've only read a couple books from the Polish language. So looking forward to that. Always enjoy Open Letter. They publish some of the wildest stuff. And then a classic, The Quiet American by Graham Greene. I've never read any Graham Greene, but I've heard all about Graham Greene and particularly this book. But yeah, this is also about the Vietnam War, so will fit in nicely with my reading of Vietnam. And last, this is from another Katie in our book club, and this is Shake Hands with the Devil, The Failure of Humanity in Rwanda. And I've heard excellent things about this book. She read it some years ago, she said, and still thinks about it often. So this is like my type of history book, something that's about a very specific event. I don't tend to love like history books about eras or things like that. But yeah, Rwanda, I mean, obviously you don't need to know a ton about what's happened there to know that it wasn't great. I don't know when I'll get to this. This is a book that is probably going to demand a lot of my attention, so we shall see. But yeah, sorry for the rambly episode. I just wanted to talk about books with you guys. I apologize for the hiccups in our recording schedule, and I'll post whatever the update on Andy is most current when I upload this. I'll put that down below as well. I'll put the link where you can go donate. I'll put the link where you can go join the book club. And if you've read any of these or have any thoughts on any of these, let me know. I have a lot of reading to do. And I haven't really been in the mood to read because I've been worried about my buddy. But anyway, thanks for everyone's support. The support from the reading community has been fantastic. And I'm glad that it's funny. I just uploaded a video about why you should start a booktube or a book talk or whatever. And I gave a bunch of reasons. And I had mentioned community, but, you know, it's like I feel like because of the audience I've built, we were able to I mean, especially financially, really support Andy as he goes through this. As of me recording this, I think we've raised like $17,000, which is great. Hopefully that doesn't all get eaten up by hospital expenses. But anyway, I'm glad that I built this audience that I was able to, provide that support for him. And of course, a lot of the support is from family of his and friends. And, I cannot take credit for all of that. But I do think that it helped quite a bit. I mean, when I posted the just a quick video about what was going on Instagram, I got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of messages. So we really appreciate that. And hopefully we'll be back to our regular scheduled programming very soon.